Maggie. I'm a licensed clinical psychotherapist with degrees in psychology, theology, and marriage and family therapy, a national certification in dialectical behavioral therapy, and a national certification in integrative mental health. In this video, I'm not looking to diagnose anyone. I'm only willing to offer insight into situations like these. Hi, everybody. Is the quality of the sex that you have based on your socioeconomic status? We're going to talk about it. There's a surprising link. But first, let's say hello to some people. Hi to Adric. He's first. He says it's on. Auntie won't be here today. Adrian says, let's go. All right. Rael is here. Peace to you as well. And others watching from the cloud. And hi to the replay gang. So let's do a quick overview of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because it is kind of representative of our current Western caste system, and it connects ascension to your socioeconomic status. So let me get that pulled up. Let's see. There we go. Let's look at that. Okay, so quick overview. Maslow's is a psychological framework. It's developed by Abraham Maslow in 1943, so it's old. It's a 5-tier model of human needs depicted as a pyramid. He says each level builds on the last one. This is where he and I diverge, as needs in a lower level have to be satisfied to move on to the next. So if you look at it, it's physiological needs, it's like food, water, air, yada, yada. And then safety needs, like having an income and a place to lay your head, love and belonging, friendships, groups that you're in, relationships, all of that. Self-esteem is about your self-reliance, your ego, all of that. And then self-actualization. So interestingly, you can see that it's tied to your income, right? And what he's saying is one need builds on the next. So if you don't have a place to live, you don't know how to love, is kind of what it's saying. And that's where we diverge. But I'm going to kind of use it today to show you this link, this strange link between your socioeconomic status and the kind of sex that you have, maybe even the quality of sex that you have. Okay. So, I skipped ahead. Sorry. Just hold Maslow's in your mind while we talk about Tantra. Okay. So Tantra, much like yoga and other things, is really misunderstood in the West because it was taken and commodified. For instance, yoga is a meditation. It's not just stretches that make you flexible. It's moving your body in certain ways to meditate, to be closer to the divine. Okay. So we hear about tantric sex and we're like, woo, that sounds amazing. But it's based in something called Tantra, right? And what Tantra is, it's ancient scriptures. Okay. It's a super interesting read. It emphasizes connection, mindfulness, being in the moment, and integration of your physical and spiritual experiences. It reminds me a little bit of something called karmic yoga, which is you can be meditating and be mindful and moving yourself closer to the divine, no matter what you're doing. If you're washing dishes and you're very in the moment and you're very intentional, then that's a karmic yoga, Okay. You're physically moving your body and you have an intention of being close to the divine. Hi, Dominic. Namaskar to you as well. So, Tantra, those scriptures are from the 5th century in India, right? There's this theme of connection, of unity of the divine and the material. So, how do we merge those two together instead of being in one or the other? It challenges all the dualism. And that we, especially in the West, we live in dualism. We are ruled by a duopoly, which is actually the same people. In Tantra, it integrates opposites together. Like, it is all about the balance of the masculine consciousness and the feminine energy. Okay. So, like I say, it's a super interesting read, especially if you're interested in that kind of thing. So, what they say in Tantra is that sex is biological, but as you move energy through your body, it can lead to enlightenment. So, this is where I say it kind of reminds me of karmic yoga, that no matter what you do, if the intention is to get closer to the divine or to reach a state of bliss, then which, as far as scriptural things go, bliss is unity with the divine. Those two things are equated. Adrian says, so sexy dishwashing. No, those are two different activities most of the time. But if your intention is to get closer to bliss, get closer to the divine, reach, this transcendence, then no matter what you're doing, you can get there. Okay. So, what Tantra says is that the sexual act itself can transcend the ego, right? Transcend like all of the thoughts that people have sometimes, like, how does my body look? And how should I do this? And is this person enjoying this? And all these things are attached to ego. Tantric sex is much more sensual, energy, those kind of things. So you can transcend your ego and sort of have unity with the person that you are having sex with and with the divine, right? So it's intimate unity, okay? In tantric sex, the focus is not the climax. It's about prolonged intimacy, deep emotional bonding, and exploration of energy. How is this making me feel? Can I move this energy up and down in my body? Can I flow this energy to the person that I'm having sex with? Okay. So, Dominic is about sexy dishwashing. Okay. So the principles of tantric sex there's 3. Presence and mindfulness, being very, very present in each and every moment. Okay. So, and it's again, prolonged intimacy, right? It's not get in, get out. Okay. So foreplay might start with eye contact and not necessarily going right in for something, right? Like focusing on each other. It's slow, it's intentional, it's sensual. And then it moves into breath work, which is controlled breathing for connection and energy circulation. So breathing together kind of aligns your energy and your intimacy. We breathe in, we breathe out. There's another one where as one person breathes out, the other one breathes in. That's not for me. I breathing someone's used air just that is not going to fulfill intimacy. So, but the breathing in together, breathing out together, and kind of lining yourselves up. And then it's about the energy flow, which is called prana, or you guys may have heard of Kundalini energy, that energy that moves up and down the chakras, right? And how that energy is moving through your body. Where are you feeling things? How energetic is it, right? And as you are in this act, you visualize the energy moving through your body and then get to the point where you can circulate it between you and the person that you're having sex with. So kind of goes back and forth. When a big way that this happens, and sometimes people do this without even thinking about what they're doing, is putting your hand on someone's heart, because a lot of times that's where a connection point is. So, hi, Chef Mike. He's a little late. You've missed half the tantric sex portion, but it's okay. So Tantra says that sacred union is sexual connection, is spiritual connection. Like all of those things are attached. And the longer that you can prolong intimacy before you reach climax, the more spiritual it is. There are tantric practitioners who can have sex for, straight 24 hours, 48 hours. There are people who can prolong climax for 2 minutes, I think the longest I've heard is 7 full minutes of climax. And so it's all about extending all of this intimacy. I did not say piranhas and linguini. I said prana and kundalini. So what starts it is treating the experience as something that's sacred, right? Whether you use candles, incense, music, whatever that is. It's if you're doing tantric sex, you treat it that way. Like we're trying to have a spiritual moment here. And then you focus on touch, focus on connection, giving and receiving, savoring, and delaying everything. Okay, so you guys got all that? Okay, so here's where the connection is. Okay, so in Tantra, we have, Adric says, anticipation, it's slow, good. Yes, you got it. In Tantra, they say physical awareness and presence, right? Like what is my body doing in relationship to somebody else's body in the moment? So it's this mindful body awareness in the present moment. And then you have in Maslow's, it's physiological needs at its baseline, right? So sex in physiological needs, right? We're in the lowest levels of the chakras. Sex is just physical relief, or it's out of financial need, right? It's primal, it's instinctual, it can be rough and greedy, right? It doesn't have the awareness of the other, it's very primal. But people like that, right? There are some people who really like that. And so they can really enjoy that. It's not that sex is never enjoyable at any stage. It's just they're kind of connected. Okay, so that's the base level of Tantra, the base level of Maslow's. Then we move into emotional connection through Tantra, right? So building intimacy, building trust. You have to have a lot of trust to kind of get rid of your ego, right? So, and it's about love and gratitude. That's what we're moving into as we move through these stages of Tantra. And then with Maslow's, when you move up, it's safety needs, right? You can hear the trust, the kind of sex you have at this level. And remember, I told you to keep in mind, Maslow's is based on socioeconomic status. So that first one, where the rough and greedy sex is, that's where your physiological needs barely get met. So we move into safety needs. Sex is seeking emotional reassurance, right? Like people are touch starved, or they just need to connect with somebody somehow. It alleviates that touch starvation or that loneliness, right? But it doesn't really have intimacy. Okay. Then for Tantra, we move into energetic exchange, right? This is directing energy up and down your own body, back and forth between the other person. There's a lot of visualizing of the energy movement, feeling the energy movement. And in Maslow's, that's when we move into love and belonging. So It's the merging of love and energy. This is where the modern interpretation of relationship is, this love and belonging stage, right? But what it's not really having is the shared exploration, right? This feels good, that feels good, this energy is good, the giving and receiving and all that. This is just kind of a base level relationship. Okay, then we move up in Tantra to spiritual connection and union, right? This is the universal balance, the letting go of ego, right? This is where we meet that, right? Um, and for Maslow's, it's where our esteem needs are, right? Like the self assurance, self reliance, confidence, that's where all that is, right? And so at this level on Maslow's, at this level of socioeconomic status, sex is about validation and competence. Um, it's about being good at it and receiving feedback and compliments about your sex or your prowess in some way, right? But it's generally at this level where there is communicating of needs. I like this, I don't like this, I want this, I don't want that. Um, you know, or don't do that or stop doing that. Right? Okay. So, but it doesn't really have the elevation, right? And the exploration piece. Okay. So the last stage of tantric sex is the transcendence and bliss portion, right? This is where you've totally lost yourself. You're not really thinking about yourself, your ego, those general things about, how do I look? How am I doing? Um why is my toe doing that? Whatever we think of, right? It's all feelings and sensations and energy, right? Hi, I'm listening. Good afternoon to you too. So, at this stage of tantric sex, it's the full integration of sensations, connection, and spirit. And so it's like, I don't know where I end and the other person begins. I don't know how to speak anymore. Like, it's just all feelings and energy, right? And so they call this non orgasmic bliss, where you feel exceptionally blissful but you didn't have to climax to do it. Okay. And this is how in tantric sex, because it is meditative, you can keep this level of bliss going for long periods of time because you've operated on energy and delay, right? Dominic says, after humbling the self, can we still focus on the dishwasher? Dominic, you guys. Hopefully, when you're humbling the self, you can focus on the dishwasher. Okay, so her face is going to turn red. Okay, so at the top level of Maslow's is self-actualization. Okay, so on Tantric, when we've reached that top level, it's transcendence and bliss that you can then maintain going for long periods of time, right? You've lost yourself in it. For self-actualization, sex is spiritual. When somebody is self-actualized, sex is something bigger than that greedy, rough, fulfilling a need kind of sex at the lowest levels, right? But it needs the elevation and unity, right? Where you're incorporating the biological, the physical, the spiritual, the universal, right? It's all encapsulated. That's what it's missing. So those who reach Tantra can purposefully experience all those stages. Okay. So dependent upon how they're feeling, what they want to experience, like I said, exploration is part of this, right? It could be, hey, rough and greedy sex, right? Because that's what myself and my person, we talk about it. Hey, let's do this, and then it can move to, basic relationship stuff because we don't have 24 hours to be set aside. Or maybe we've had a bad day and our self-esteem took a hit and we need a little attention and a little coaxing in the bedroom. And so, you know, if you've reached tantra, you can experience and enjoy all of those. Okay. So again, I recommend reading the tantra scriptures, not just for the sex part, but because it is really about being mindful and purposeful and in the moment. And anything that you do can be a part of elevating yourself, reaching this divine consciousness, having moments of bliss in the most mundane activities. Chef Mike says, got to use that one. Adrian says, yeah, we got to get these dishes done. Yes. I don't know how. Yes, I do. I'm the one who brought up karmic yoga washing dishes. Okay. So none of this, what I've talked about though, is hookup culture. So possibly that very physical need, like I have a need for relief, you have a need for relief. Let's get together, release the valve, and keep it moving. I don't like you, you don't like me. That, I guess, is kind of hookup culture. But a lot of times, hookup culture is not just meeting somebody on Tinder and meeting them that day and then you never speak to them again. A lot of what hookup culture happens is you have the friends with benefits, right? You have these people that you know that you meet up with, hook up, but it's really, hey, are you busy? I'm not busy. There's nothing mindful in it. There's nothing intentional. There's nothing about personal growth. There's not really anything about exploration. There's no trust. There's no connection. And I'm not saying all sex has to occur in a relationship. I don't tell adults what to do unless they're hurting somebody else. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. Exploration can take a lot of forms, but to reach this higher level of tantra, there has to be a letting go of ego, which means there has to be trust there and there has to be a connection there. And so it doesn't really mesh with hookup culture. Okay. So the only way to resolve hookup culture and have better and better and better sex is to address the deeper needs and the motivation behind casual sex encounters. So if you are someone or you're thinking about having casual sex encounters, you can get a physiological need met. Yes. You are not going to get an emotional need met, an intimacy, a belonging, nothing. And you're not going to be able to reach these different levels. I said higher a minute ago, but I'm just going to say different levels of sex in casual sex encounters. It's just going to be is what it is, and it's not going to fulfill any other needs or be any better, right? The problem with the hookup culture is that it prioritizes the climax. It prioritizes the physical gratification and just leaves people unfulfilled. They have to have those needs met elsewhere. Okay. Okay. I got to read some comments now. Okay. So Dominic says, after let's eye down the washing machine. Dominic says maybe the merging of the masculine and feminine within, that's always a part of it, right? Because again, remember, you're making connections of energy. So your energy is moving up and down in a balanced way. Energy is moving back and forth and in and out, right? And, in the base model, it's a masculine and a feminine, and they are balancing their energy with each other. Think about how the yin and yang symbol looks. that to me highlights like what tantra can be. It's this energy flowing in a circle, right? And some of your energy is in me, some of my energy is in you. Everything is flowing, right? Adric says Prince sang it based. Hi, Marcus. Thank you for being in here. Keep it 100 is here. Dominic says, so you're saying that should move the dishwasher closer to the washing machine? Okay, I'll move the dryer out. No, leave the dryer there. Okay, Rael says hookup culture is prostitution packaged nicely. It's something. It's something. Dominic says true on the yin and yang. Chef Mike's 23 positions. However, Tantra has books and books and books of positions. And it's much like yoga. Okay, so I brought up yoga in the beginning, how it's moving the body in certain ways to meditate, right? And it's about energy flow. But then the Western culture took yoga and turned it into a money-making scheme. And so now you go and you stretch in certain positions to get your workout in. It was meditation. The body movement was secondary. The body movement was just to help the energy flow to be able to meditate. So in Tantra and in Tantric Sex, these different positions are for energy flow and to help get to these states of bliss and to prolong the bliss, right? So other problems with hookup culture, it can fill a little bit of an emotional need of being validated, like I want to be seen like I'm doing a good job, that I'm pleasing to the other person, that they're enjoying it, they're getting off, I've done it long enough, or it's a bit transactional. If I do this to them, well, then they'll do this to me, and I like that. But then you get but they didn't do a really good job, or I like the way this other person did it, right? There's some judgment that goes on there. So you can get a little bit of validation from it, even from being wanted. So if somebody calls and says, hey, can we hang out? You can get a bit of an ego boost from being wanted, but it doesn't really make you feel connected or feel that you belong or unified somewhere. People also in the hookup culture use sex as an escapism. Either they're escaping that they're bored, or they're lonely, or they've been previously traumatized and they don't want to go through with it, or they're in a relationship where it's unfulfilled, so they will seek sexual gratification elsewhere. It could be a way to pass the time. It could be, I can't sleep, so I'm going to find somebody to have sex with so I can sleep, because if I have a climax, then I'll be able to go to sleep. It's using it as a means to an end, which means you're using the other person as a means to an end. And in like Kantian philosophy and in transcendentalism, we don't use people. People are not cattle. They are not tools. They are not things. And so it doesn't really do anything for your personal growth to masturbate yourself with someone else's body. That's essentially what that is. Okay. And another problem is that's what I just talked about. It's a means to an end. I got ahead of myself. Okay. So Adrian says, at this point, just put the damn dishwasher in the bedroom. I think that's what I was saying. Chef Mike says, we wash dishes and we don't judge. Look. Super chats, super stickers, super thanks. They're all up and working. I just get so tickled when it happens. And honestly, if anybody has a question that you want me to spend a little bit of time on, as long as it's an appropriate question, it can be a little cheeky, I'm fine with that. But And if you send a super sticker, super chat, super thanks, I will spend some time on it. It's the least I can do if you spend your hard-earned money to help support this channel. Okay. 2, Watchful says, respect to your work. Is there a way I can reach out to you for counseling services? So there's really only one way. My private practice is, it's in a closed loop right now. I'm not taking any new clients whatsoever. And then I'm also doing research. I have a full-time job. I do this channel. So one of the things that you can do, and I still have it up as a benefit on Patreon, that if you're a paid Patreon subscriber, you can set up free consultation, some consultation services where, maybe if you have a question or two and you want to have like a discussion, then we can set it up that way. If it ends up being that maybe counseling is the best way to go, therapy is the best way to go, it really can't be resolved in some consultation, then I will get you good referrals, because finding a good therapist is tough. And people struggle to fire their therapist if they are with somebody they don't mesh with. So that's really the only way right now to be able to do that. So that, if that may work for you. And really that's just me saying, if you're paying for Patreon, then you get consultation. So what you pay for Patreon, it's free consultation. It's just paying for my consultation. You know what I mean? So, I don't like to do the something for nothing. So that is one way you could do that. Okay. If you're wanting a referral, just a referral for counseling services wherever you are, I have a lot of contacts, which means I can get good referrals. You can shoot me an email. I think my email is in the description of my channel. Put in the subject line that you're wanting a therapy referral or a counseling referral. And I'll do what I can to get that to you so that you can have that. Okay, so what do we do about the hookup culture and wanting to have higher quality of sex, or wanting to have a variety of sex and not just this hookup fulfilling a basic physiological need? How do we do that? You're very welcome to, Watchful. I have the best live tribe on YouTube, so I will help you guys out no matter how I can. Okay. I will do the best I absolutely can. If it's something I can't do, I'll point you in the right direction of somebody who can. I don't leave people hanging, especially my live tribe. You guys are so supportive. And so it is no problem. Okay. So what do we do? What do we do? We want to have better sex. Maybe we like the rough and greedy sex, but I want to try out some other things too. So how do we do that? Now, this is what I'm going to tell you. Even though Maslow's and the stages of Tantra kind of align and have a lot of the similar topics, Tantra and Tantric sex is not related to your income in any way, shape, or form. It is not attached to your socioeconomic status. Okay. So, it doesn't matter how much money you make. The interesting thing, though, is at that base level of my physical and safety needs are not being met, we see people get in a habit and a loop of that very primal, rough and greedy sex. Mostly because you don't have time to think about other things. Okay. If you don't know where your next meal is coming from, you're unhoused, or, your threat of eviction, those kind of things, it's hard to think about transcendence in those moments. So, but we can get sort of used to it, to where when we're not at that level anymore, we've moved up from that level. Other people we know have moved up from that level, but we start thinking that's how sex is it is primal, it's needy, it's rough, it's greedy, you know, and we just think that's how sex works. Um, but that's not necessarily how it works. So Tantra tells us something a little bit different. So, oh, thank you, Chef Mike. I appreciate that. Okay, so how we combat this and kind of get out of this cycle of hookup culture and this just getting our physiological needs met every single time we have sex. Porn shows a lot of this, the rough and greedy and needy and, very climax focused kind of stuff, right? So you can see how we think that's just how all sex is. Okay. So what do? Shift the focus from the physical needs to a more holistic view. So be present in the moment, every single moment. Don't be thinking about the dishes, or what you have to do at work tomorrow, or how bad today was, or that the person you're having sex with pissed you off 5 years ago. Try to get your mind clear, be present, aware, intentional. Everything you do should be with the intention of increasing and prolonging intimacy and pleasure. And just totally throw out that transactional stuff. Okay. We're moving energy, we're exploring, we're doing stuff. Talk, if you don't like something, do like something, want something, you can say those things, but it's not tit for tat. Okay. Dominic says karma mudra is Vajrayana Buddhist practice that uses sexual union to achieve a state of bliss and insight. So the karma mudra is also like the karma yoga. So they're all probably from some basic teachings, right? Of physical movement with meditative practices that get you to divine bliss. So I would assume so. And because they all come from India. Okay. So Dominic says just sharing some meaningful definition. I kind of like that. Instead of definition, we're defining, right? Okay, so then another thing that we can do is prioritize our emotional safety, our connection with other people. Like if I'm getting ready to have this interaction, am I emotionally going to be better or worse at the end of this, right? And there's this trope that men don't feel any sense of connection. There's no emotion involved in sex that they can have, you know, just these sex encounters and not feel a thing or didn't feel a thing for the person. And I say it's a trope for several reasons. But in this particular discussion, I want to tell you that Tantra and a lot of these other things were created by men and really promoted unity and emotional fulfillment. Another thing that I want to throw in there, and maybe sometime I can have a show about it, but another thing I want to throw in there is that men are taught to emotionally compartmentalize and to emotionally suppress. We teach little boys to do that because as adults in this world, we tend to not want to deal with people's emotions, especially little boys, right? And so we steal little boys' abilities to process and handle their emotions, and we teach them to compartmentalize and suppress. And so it's kind of like that statement going around from Prince Ellis saying men can't love. Um, it's it's a trope. It's dumb. And so I don't buy into that. I don't subscribe to that at all. I think men, as much as women, use it for emotional fulfillment, as they should. Dominic says, "Sorry, my spelling." Don't worry about your spelling because now I like it. Um, Rael says, "It seems to me that for men, sex is more pleasure-based, whereas for women, it seems it's used more for power. Not saying women don't derive pleasure from sex, but it seems more secondary than primary." Hmm. I can kind of see that from a social construct because a lot of times women are taught from their mothers and grandmothers to, if you can get him to have sex with you, well, then you're in a relationship, right? I mean, that's how it used to be, right? If the man had sex with you, well, then you're together, right? And that then it kind of moved into, if you can get him to get you pregnant, then you're going to get married, right? And so, trapping men kind of thing. And I do see things where women will withhold sex or use sex to manipulate behaviors in men. So I can kind of see what you're talking about. Um, but on the flip side of that, I also see where women tend to, more than men, and again, if I say I like dogs, don't ask me why I hate cats. But it seems like more for women, they're more self-conscious during sex and can't really get out of their own minds very well. Not to say it again that it doesn't happen to men. But so I think it's difficult. If anybody is in their mind and feeling self-conscious, it's difficult, right? But a lot of what you're saying is a lot of the hookup culture, right? Like, if men are seeking sex just for pleasure and not for anything else, that's part of hookup culture. If women are seeking sex for power, then that's kind of hookup culture. So, you know, Rael says, "I think men compartmentalize sex because we can't allow sex to drive us to be with a woman who is not good for us just based on sex," which I think is good. Now, what I could combat that with is, why are you having sex with somebody who's not good for you? Good sex doesn't equate to good marriage, right? But good sex should come from a good union, a tight friendship, a we get along great, a relationship, a marriage, whatever. This is what Tantra says, that connection leads to better and better and different varieties of sex. And if we're just having sex with somebody who can fulfill a physiological need, but they're a horrible person, that's kind of that base level rough and greedy, and we have to get it, I shouldn't say have to. I don't tell adults what to do. Um, it's nice to get out of being able just to have one type of sex, okay? So, prioritize the emotional safety and the connection. Um, it's interesting that people will share their genitals with each other, but not what they think and feel. Like, what I think and feel is way more private than genitalia, right? Like, you can be naked with somebody that you don't trust or you don't like or that you don't know. It's unsafe, right? Like, it's okay to wait until you actually get along with somebody, you really like them, you can have a really good connection. In the meantime, you can work on yourself and create better and healthier connections and have those moments and have that exploration with people that you actually like and care about. Um, be aware of your energy and who you are spending your energy on, who you're giving your energy to. A term that I hear sometimes is emotional labor. Like, if you're not coming away from sex feeling fulfilled, right? And I mean that in every term, in every sense of the term, fulfilled, not just physiologically released, the steam valve was released, um, then your energy was taken and you gave it away willingly. You did it. So just be aware of your energy and who you're giving it to. Um, Hookups really only meet one very specific need, right? Then all your other needs have to be met in other ways, so it takes a lot of energy output to get all these different needs met in a bunch of different ways that could just be met in a good connection, right? It's an exhausting cycle of trying to find. You're constantly on the hunt for something. Okay. Um, Sex is connected to your soul, it is spiritual, right? So when sex is recreational, it loses its meaning. And you're missing out. You're missing out when it's not a spiritual thing, right? So, like I said, non committed sex can be elevating, just be intentional, be connected to that person, express gratitude to yourself, to them, for the whole thing. Rawls says, men's initial interest in women will tend to be sexual first, right? It's biological first, right? The conversation with a woman determines whether a man views her as short term or long term. Even Puck said, I don't want it if it's that easy. But that's kind of at those levels of you have to hunt for it. You have to track it, you have to hunt it, you have to subdue it, you have to, finagle it into something. Hi, Scorpion Black. When it can be different at different levels, Ryle says, I think Tupac meant he didn't really want to be with a woman that was easy to get. We aren't designed to be vulnerable to a woman we determine easy to get. Well, I think, there's fault on all sides, but I think when we talk about women that are easy to get, for me, and especially during this topic, easy to get skips all of the connection. It skips the who are you, who am I? And in some ways, being easy to get shows that you don't even find yourself all that interesting, right? Like, I don't need to connect with you. There's nothing really interesting about me. I got nothing to talk about. Let's share genitals. Like it's like you're skipping the connection, you're skipping the finding out about the other person, sharing who you are, all of that kind of stuff. And so, a man responding to that would go to that base level of sex, just needy, rough and greedy, just get in, get out kind of stuff, because the stage was set for, I don't find myself interesting enough to even bother with the rest of it. And that's, again, just my perspective. Okay. There's other things I'm sure that can go into that, but from a psychological, spiritual perspective, I would say that's my thoughts. And then also understand your motivation, right? And be real with yourself. If you're just trying to get your valve released, then be real with that and be honest with the other person. Hey, I need some release. You need some release. You want to masturbate ourselves on each other? Do it. Just be honest about it. Understand your motivation, understand theirs. Don't, all the games just ends up leaving you unfulfilled and bitter. Okay, Rael said, agree. That's why I said the conversation with the woman sets the stage. Yeah. When I married my ex-wife, our first combo was for 7 hours. And after I said to my friend, that's my wife, that is so sweet. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. And when you start talking, on the phone to somebody or whatever, when you're dating or trying to meet somebody and the conversation just isn't there, it's just not going to go anywhere. Raul said, my friend laughed and I said, I'm serious. 3 months later, I married her because she fit what I was looking for. I committed to marriage with her before sex even took place. That's lovely. That's lovely. Right? Okay. So, and just align your sex with your value system. You know, if you value prudence and spirituality, um, if you value having the connection, whatever you value, then align your sex with that, right? At the end of the day, you have to think about, what does society teach men and women about sex, right? It's very different. Men are taught that when they have sex, it's to satisfy a physical need. And society, because society takes away, the upper level chakras from men, um, you're missing out on all of the emotional connection and the bliss and the spirituality and the feeling of belonging and the feeling of importance and the balance of giving and receiving, because you're told it's just, men only think with their penises kind of thing. And then for women are taught that sex is commitment when it's not. It's a different thing. It's not commitment. So when we think that sex is commitment, we're missing out on the pleasure, the pleasure of sex. The if we only focus on connection, right? We're missing out on everything else. So, and it's all connected to, again, this commodified society wants more workers. But you guys didn't think I'd go there with that, right? But promoting a hookup culture gets them more workers. Okay. So we're not taught any of this. We're not taught that sex can be divine. There's actually a theory out there that the Catholic Church, and for a long time, the Catholic Church was the only Christian church, right? Like, it took over. But there's this theory that the Catholic Church made sex and sex thought a sin was actually a way to promote that it happened more, because open discussion of it would promote to people looking for connection and good sex and those kind of things, but making it people's dirty little secrets, it makes humans want to do it. So there's this whole theory about that, right? And we live in a time when we devalue birth control and those kind of things. So you can see where that's going and why society continues to do what it's doing. But if we value sex as a soulful thing, it's a soulful path to growth and enjoyment and enlightenment for both people. We don't use each other as a means to an end. Both people involved, right? It creates this level of ecstatic bliss that we are really lacking in today's society. So I want to thank you guys for coming again for the billionth time. And I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I have the best live tribe on YouTube, and shout out to the replay gang. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to show you guys a pic of my dog. But before I do, we have this coming Wednesday. What is this coming Wednesday show? Let's see. It is Mommy Issues. So hopefully I see you guys Wednesday. If not, I'll see you next Sunday. So I'm going to show you a picture of my dog. Please like the video if you haven't already. It really helps the algorithm to know what kind of things you like. Share where you think it's appropriate, especially to someone who you think needs to hear it. And don't forget to check out some of the wilder Pivot Point Wednesday shows. And last, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to break down complex concepts that make the esoteric not so teric, helping you on your journey to become your most authentic self. By subscribing, you'll join a community that thrives on curiosity and growth, and you'll never miss out on insights and some wild discussions. Let's uncover the universe together. Bye.